let's talk about business and breeding. So I am a business owner. I have actually founded or co-founded plenty of businesses, one of which is a consulting firm. So I actually do management consulting for companies. A lot of the companies when they're looking for mergers, exits, or acquisitions. So for me, numbers in business is everything. And for Axie, that is one of the main reasons why I got into it, is I saw the business potential in it. So what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to bring up a little window up in the corner, because the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to show you, because I'm going to write it on my iPad, it just works a little bit better, is I'm going to go over a breeding column. I mentioned considering breeds, but you're probably thinking, okay, so do I have to keep buying more Axies and breeding? No. If you were going the aqua route and you wanted to make an endless breeding system, you really only need 4 Axies to start. Now, you could do it with 3. Doing it with 3 requires you to buy Axies that have considerably higher breeds. So I actually recommend going 4, because I think lower breeds, I meant higher breed potential. So I would consider actually going for maybe something that has 3 or 4 breeds, breeding each of those 4 Axies independently between the 2 of them, getting at least 2 or 3 Axies from each of them, and then going from there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start writing it up here so that you guys can see up there what I'm talking about when I mean this. So just to give you the numbers here, let's say we have Axie number 1 and Axie number 2, and let's assume that these are pretty similar Axies. Like if we were looking at the aquas here, let me go to my inventory, let me bring up Nemo and Nemo's Bride, because these are 2 Axies I'm planning on breeding. So let's say we have these 2 Axies here, and these are the 2 we're thinking of. So we have these ones. Nemo is strong. He's got these cards right here. If I go to Nemo's Bride, very similar. She has a Navaga, but she has a recessive 1 and a recessive 2 Nemo gene. So pretty likely I'm going to get Nemo out of this. Maybe I don't. Maybe I get Navaga. Not a problem. I already have plans for that. But they're both pretty low on breeds. I mean, this one's only 2 breeds, so I can breed it a few times here. What I'm planning on doing is breeding them together. So if you found them, which the best way to find good breeds is to use the Axie breeding calculator here, and I'll show you that in just a moment here, but I want to just go back to what we're doing here. Imagine we have those 2 Axies that are similar. Now, we need a little bit more than that. So over on the other side here, we're going to have 2 more Axies that are quite similar in type, cards, etc. Now you breed them both together, and underneath you are going to get, let's just for argument's sake here say, let's say 2 more Axies. Just for argument's sake, let's say you don't have a lot of money, you're trying to make this with a really lean startup, which I respect that. I've lean startup a lot of business. It can be a lot of fun, even though it's a lot of trouble. So let's just assume that you get 2 out of each of these. Let's even just for, let's say you got lucky and you got one that had a little bit less. Let's say that we have a third one. We're just going to put it up there. It's part of this left side. Now, what you're going to do is, because Axies cannot breed with siblings, but Axies can breed with cousins, we are going to breed baby 1 with baby 1 on the other side. We are then going to breed baby 2 with baby 2 on the other side. Now, for some of you math guys or business guys, you're already starting to see it. It's coming together for you. I know, I can see the look in your eyes. But the baby set 1, because we have 0 breeds now, you should have no problem getting a minimum of 3, but probably closer to 4 breeds out of them. Let's say you get 4 breeds here, so I'm going to go with breed 1, 2, 3, 4. And now these all came from that upper line, just so you know. And now on the next one here, on the next one, we are going to get, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we even have this one up here in the corner here. Now you could look at this, or in the middle here, you could look at this however you want to. That's a pretty terrible star. I'm gonna put it like that. You could look at that however you want. You could even just sell that depending on how the genes came out, or maybe it was a run, who knows? You don't really need it, but it's there, it's just extra, and that does happen sometimes. But if you look at the breeds that you just made, now they're all cousins. And unfortunately, even if you don't agree with this, in Axie, they're all digital, so there's no ancestral factor. It's more of just a limitation and a rule on breeding. You can now breed them together. So let's say you breed all of these together now, because they can breed. They are independently, their relationships are independent to one another. You can then breed them. And here's where things get really interesting. Now, that initial 4 Axies you used, well, look at where you're at. With only 2 generations of breeding, you have now doubled your stock of Axies. And you can use the same system I just showed you to continue breeding them endlessly and getting money from them. And now, one of the things I recommend you do is, in order to get a little bit of return on it, because if you just keep breeding and breeding and breeding and just hold them all, you're never going to get any return, is after you've done about 3 or 4 breeds, depending on you. You could even go up to 5 if you want, but I mean, SLP is, the usage has gotten a little bit higher, is that you can go from there and you can sell a few of them after you're done breeding them. Or if you really want to, because the biggest bottleneck here is going to be SLP, is you can then go and start creating scholarship teams. And now that, if anybody here is still on the business side of it, you're probably thinking, okay, well, that is a variable that has to be taken into consideration. SLP, how do I balance that? Don't worry, I got you. Make sure that when you're breeding, you consider a few factors. Consider the opportunity of breeding scholarship Axies with sellable Axies and having this endless loop together. The best way to do this is choosing types that can also be used to create competitive scholarship teams. So for me, as you can already see here with Nemo and Nemo's Bride, clearly I'm looking at double aquas as an option here. If I can get a bunch of these bred, I can put a bunch of teams together, which I already have. I have a few teammates myself who are helping to bring more SLP in, and I am paying them for it. You now get the opportunity to breed, and instead of selling all of them after you're done breeding them, maybe sell half of them, turn the other half into scholarship teams. So if you are wanting to do this super, super, super lean, I recommend going one of a few ways. Either 3-type it, or 2-type it, you could, and make one of them a tank, 100% a tank. The second one, you could do it aquas, but aquas are a little bit pricey. And then the third way you could do it is you could do it where you have tanks, say beasts or birds, and then you just fill in the gaps with the income you get from selling some of your extras. So what you would do is you would then use this system that I showed you. You would go from there and you would then sell the ones you don't need and use that ETH to buy the backline, midline, or, well, preferably not frontline. You should probably have tanks in the mix here if you want to make this a really profitable business and sustainable model, is you can fill in the gaps like that. So I hope that helped explain a little bit from the breeding side. I know I just went into it loose there because I wanted to show you guys what I call this is essentially breeding a colony. It is using the Axies that you have. I prefer 4 of them, but you could do any of them, and making a self-sustainable business model. Now, with the upgrade of SLP, you're going to need a lot of SLP, so scholarships will come into play. I personally think scholarships are great because they not only benefit whoever is able to be the manager in it, but they also benefit the scholars, who are usually people in other countries that their dollar might not be as strong or the quality of life might be different. So you'd be significantly improving their life by giving them work. So it is a really, really awesome thing. I think this is one of the most, close to home for me because I'm all about impact. I came from a low-income lifestyle in the middle of rural Saskatchewan, which is the center of Canada. Anyone who knows Canada knows Saskatchewan is not known for being a very wealthy part of the country. So if I see an opportunity to really improve people's lives like that, I'm going to take that. And on that point, that's one of my big objectives here. I have a lot of people, some of you who might be watching, who message me and say, hey, we have scholarships running. I don't yet, and it's because I'm running a lot of different businesses here, but we're really close to it. So give me maybe another month or two, and I will do a big announcement about scholarships happening. But I don't want to go too far off there. I don't want to start warming up the eyes because that does get me real all nice, warm, and fuzzy on the inside. But let's go back to the breeding side. There was one thing I wanted to mention, which is the breeding calculator. So let me just show you that really quick. I'm just going to take it over here. I'll leave a link to the breeding calculator in the description so you can see it. Put one of your Axies in the one slot and put the other one in the other slot. Now I know Nemo's code off by heart here, and you see what you got. Now the first thing you see here is that it's 100% pure. This is great. I personally like dealing with pures because then you have less chance for mutations to really gut your Axie. And when you're dealing with an Axie as expensive as Nemo, I think Nemo, even with 4 breeds or 5 breeds on him, he'd probably be going somewhere around like 0.2, 0.25 because this Axie is just so strong. If you guys have seen me play Nemo, you know that he is very, very strong. So what we have here is we have the eyes are probably going to be clear. I don't really care much about which eyes come out, but I did say I don't like those telescope ones, so I am kind of hoping for the clear. The ears, again, not a problem, but the big thing here is the Aranda, the Piranha, the Sponge. Those are the 3 main cards, and then it is a bit of a toss-up here with Navaga being at 37, but because the Bride had both a recessive 1 and a recessive 2, which was Nemo, we have a pretty high chance to get Nemo. So I'm hoping if I breed them 2 or 3 times together, I'm going to get at least 2 or 3 Nemos. That's the idea. That's what I'm banking on. Even if I only get 2, that's fine. And then I have 2 other aquas that are very similar to them, and I'm going to breed the children together and create those colonies. So hope that helps explain it a little bit. Now,